So let's talk about the economy a little bit. All year we've been dealing with several aspects that combine to make the economic situation that it appears to be today. First of all, Saturn has been in opposition to Neptune all year. And as I predicted quite a number of years ago, when this occurred, that would be the end of the housing market. We would see tremendous dissipation. Saturn rules the housing market, it rules land, it rules the house itself. Neptune dissolves things. It shows you where reality begins and ends, and now we see what the reality of the housing market is like. So why are the stocks still up? Why 13,000 in Dow Jones with the housing market terrible, with people more in debt than they've ever been before, with health insurance problems, with on and on. It's a ridiculous situation. Well, we have Jupiter in square to Uranus this year, but also in trine to Saturn. If the square to Uranus were happening and the economy looked the way that it does, I think the stock market would probably take a tremendous hit. But Saturn's been in trine. It's been holding up the foundation of the markets, the foundation of the growth of Jupiter. So it continues to be pushed up. In October, the week of the 7th, Jupiter's going to square Uranus. Saturn will have moved into Virgo. It will no longer be in trine to Jupiter. And Venus will conjunct Saturn that same week. Well, let's see what happens. I hate to predict. If I'm wrong, I look silly. If I'm right, well, of course, you're an astrologer. You should be right. When it comes to the markets, many things take precedent. First of all, the psychological makeup. All the markets, the stocks, the bonds, the commodities, are pretty much run on psychology. If people feel optimistic, they buy the markets. If they feel pessimistic, they sell them. Well, Jupiter squared Uranus can go either way. With the trine to Saturn giving it the support, all the markets are going up. But if you go to the supermarket, especially if you live in New York, but anywhere, you can see that the prices continue to go up while your wages remain the same, or in some cases go down. We see that the equity that you had in your home that you borrowed against is no longer worth, the house is no longer worth what you borrowed against it. You may have to give up that home or take a terrible hit on it, but you'll continue to pay more taxes. And you pay taxes on the... And as the trine of Saturn to Jupiter separates, and Jupiter continues in Sagittarius, but Saturn goes into Virgo, what will happen is the sense of foundation, the sense of security that we all have psychologically, will start to dissipate. The square from Jupiter to Uranus may create a sudden event, or it might simply be a collective breakdown. Maybe some news occurs where the housing market shows tremendous weakness, or some other economic news comes out and people freak. At which point, of course, the stocks go down. I'm not particularly bullish on the stock market. I rarely am, because I think it's overvalued based on what the middle class of America is doing right now. The continued erosion of the middle class, which is part of the Saturn-Neptune opposition. And as Pluto goes into Capricorn, first of all, we will have a transformation of the psychological thing, but Saturn is going to trine that Pluto on and off for about a year, so we're going to have some structure there as well. For the first year that Pluto is in Capricorn, we should have a stronger foundation involving nuclear problems, things like that. But once that trine separates, we're not going to have that structure or stability either. Also, the Saturn-Pluto trine may create a bottom to the housing market, but that won't happen until 2008. And even if it does, once that trine separates, I think that we're going to see more erosion in the housing market, because I think we have a long-term problem and people are dealing with it in a short-term way, which is our way. We also are going to have, with the Saturn-Neptune opposition, which completes this month, June, or next month, is what created a less than active hurricane season in 2006 into 7. We had very few hurricanes last year because Saturn suppressed the Neptunian water. Now that opposition is completing, and we probably will have a busy hurricane season one more time. Global warming, all of these issues are in the collective unconscious. They're creating insecurity. But like I keep saying, the Saturn-Jupiter trine is laying a foundation and giving us some sense of psychological support. When that leaves, that's when we're going to see what's really happening in our economy. We're on our way there. It's only a matter of a few more weeks before we start to see some of the issues over the summer. But October is when it's our favorite month for stock market crashes anyway. And I suggested there will probably be a correction, and more likely than not in the second week of October. But keep an eye on the equity in your home. If you continue to see it eroding, you might want to change your long-term plans. In any case, go to your financial advisor and get some good advice, and keep yourself liquid. You need some cash. You don't want your money all in stocks, and the commodities are going to start to explode as inflation shows itself. Saturn-Neptune opposition every 36 years shows inflation and recession at the same time. That's exactly what we are having. But the Saturn-Jupiter trine is holding back the massiveness of it. It's going to show itself over the summer. You'll see more inflation, more recession, then we have a stock market correction. So, if you'd like to know more about economic and financial astrology, health astrology, or psychological astrology, go to my website, mitchastro.com, and sign up for my newsletter. Every month I put it out. We have updates, and we try and have some fun with it while we keep an eye on the world.